This is Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best limited truck warranty.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in once again, Fox 8 Overtime. I'm Juan Kincaid with the usual cast of characters, Garland Gillen, Chris Hagan, and Sean Vazan. Is it too early to say the Saints are not who we thought they'd be?
I think at this point we're all just fighting not to give too many hot takes. There are a lot of hot takes to give. I'm trying to stay reserved over here.
It's one game. Let's just slow down. Last year they started 0-2. Guess what? They went to the playoffs. It's way early. Patriots lost in week 1 last year, and they went to the Super Bowl, so it's way too early to make bold predictions
It's
yet.
one of 16. It's one of 16, but still, the way they lost was just something we were not expecting at all. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick lit them up. So there is some concern, but still, it is one of 16. They have plenty of time to bounce back.
Sean's obviously been hanging out with Sean Payton. The one of 16 talk.
No, that has not been happening.
I know, you're right. All right, let's get to the big board, because on our big board tonight, a lot of things to get to, a bunch of topics. Saints slow starts, preseason perception, the NFL's bounce back culture, and is LSU ranked too high? Well, we're going to begin with another slow start to the season for your New Orleans Saints as we start off with viewer questions submitted on the Final Play app using the Final Word feature. When is this coaching staff going to realize that preseason is more than just evaluating talent? The starters on both sides of the ball need playing time in preseason to get into a rhythm. We didn't get things going last year until week 3 for the very same reason, from Big Bear and Kenner. I have to agree with him. I've been saying that, maybe Sean Payton needs to tweak things a little bit in the preseason, get these guys some more playing time. It doesn't guarantee you're going to be successful in that first game, but it sure wouldn't hurt based on the history.
Well, look, it's like we said it earlier in the week. This is more than an outlier. This is a trend. This is an issue. And obviously, there's nothing you can do about it this year, so it's something to certainly look at. Now, just last week, we were debating whether or not they should cut preseason off 2 games. That's what makes this start so kind of questionable, because last year they were kind of figuring it out and kind of caught fire week 3, week 4. This year you kind of thought you knew what you had, but it just goes to show you it's a new year and you don't pick up where you left off. It just doesn't happen. You do start again, and other teams around the league get better. So whether or not the preseason approach is certainly something they have to look at, but still, this is not an outlier. This is a trend that they have to really be aware of.
Yeah, like Sean said, I agree that it's a trend. I think it's something that's going on because it has been recurring for years now. But I think on the other side of that, I don't know that playing them in the preseason and in those preseason games is definitely the answer. There's an answer there, but I don't know if it's necessarily getting them on the field, because if they run Marshawn Lattimore out there and play him, 6 quarters in the preseason, and if they run Marcus Williams out there and play him 6 quarters in the preseason, and something happens and they got hurt, then you're saying, why did they play him? Because there are a ton of teams around the NFL who aren't playing starters at all, and they're doing just fine. The Rams looked outstanding. So I think there are 2 sides to that question. There's an answer there, but I don't know if it's playing them in game action preseason.
The one thing I found worrisome in the preseason is they were trying to mix and match the linebackers all preseason. They couldn't get a solid core of who was going to start. They moved around Anzalone, Davis, Te'o, and Klein. They haven't gotten that figured out yet. Obviously, they didn't get it figured out this past week when they gave up 529 total yards. That's something maybe next preseason they need to lock in who's going to be the middle linebacker, who's going to be the strong, who's going to be the will, and play those same guys all preseason.
It almost felt like there was too much fluidity. They were trying too hard to figure out the right match where, perhaps getting a little more solidified at that spot may have put some better production at that position.
I think that I agree with Garland. Too much moving around.
That's a rare occurrence for the viewers at home.
When they brought Mario Davis in here, you brought him in here as a guy who can play the middle. He was so good with the Jets, and yet you're not playing him there now that he's here. That's been my biggest argument. I think the coaching staff is overthinking this way too much. Put the player in the best position and build around him. I don't know anybody on this set here that saw Manti Te'o getting a start in that first game. Why is Craig Robertson not getting a go at linebacker, who was probably one of your best linebackers in the preseason? I just think they're overthinking things right now. Let's keep the preseason to regular season conversation going. Chris, do you think the preseason is an accurate picture of what can be expected?
I think the way the trend has gone now, I don't think it is. I mean, there are a lot of teams that may play starters not at all. They may play them just 1 game. You look at the Bears, they held a lot of formations and what they were going to do on offense and personnel back. And I think that's the smart thing to do, especially if you spend all summer, game planning for this first game and game planning for that opponent, and you want to come out and catch them off guard. So I don't know how much we're going to be able to see from the preseason anymore. It's just about maybe getting some of those rookies and younger guys reps. But I just think player safety is such a big concern now between concussions and injuries. It's not worth it. The good teams can afford to maybe take a week or two to get going and still be okay.
And look, a little bit of that loss was I think defensively they kind of thought they were just going to pick up where they left off, and the effort was not there. But I'll say this, while the preseason can be a mirage, two things showed up from the preseason with the Saints that showed up yesterday. That was run defense. They are getting killed at the point of attack, and we didn't say it during camp, but we all saw it. Marshawn Lattimore did not have a good training camp. He got torched by a wide receiver that was gunning for him yesterday, or on Sunday. So I think those two things really did hold true from the preseason to the regular season.
And Marshawn talked during the offseason. I'm going to talk a lot this season. Well, his actions didn't back up his talking. And my concern with this defense has always been with the secondary is that the players you depended on the most last year were the youngest players on the team. So all they know is winning. And so when Sean Payton comes to the podium at the end of the game on Sunday and says, what happened last year has no effect on what can happen this year, he's basically telling those young players, you got to get out of your head what happened last year. We know you were good last year, but people didn't expect that. And so now this year, teams have game plan. They know what to expect from Marshawn and Ken Crawley and Marcus Williams back there. And the Bucs took advantage. Now, granted, the Bucs were a much better team offensively, having all their pieces this time they did last time they played the Saints.
Yeah, and Fitzmagic, he's probably never going to have a performance like that again the rest of his life. This was a rare thing that he had the game of his life in Week 1. Marcus Williams, though, Marshawn Lattimore, you spoke of it. Last year, the hype train was on overdrive, and they heard it all preseason that how good they were. And you know what? Maybe this is good for him. It kind of smacks him in the face, just like Marshawn said. Sometimes you need a little smack in the face. They got it, and maybe this week against Tyrod Taylor and the Cleveland Browns, they'll get their swag back.
I feel like you got smacked by Ike Turner.
Well, there's a difference between preparing for an opponent for a week, like the opponents did for the Saints last year, as opposed to preparing for an opponent all off season. Marshawn Lattimore, everybody's been studying him. Marcus Williams, same way. A lot of players on that Saints defense. It's a sign of respect, quite frankly. But still, you got to rise your level of play because everyone else is going to rise their level of play with it.
And the run of receivers coming isn't pretty. It's Jarvis Landry and Josh Gordon. It's Julio Jones. It's Odell Beckham in Week 4. It's not going to get any easier. And the way he's been talking, like you mentioned, Juan, he's got a hit list. He's got guys that he bodied last year. They're going to be coming for revenge, and Mike Evans had his.
It's going to be fun to watch and interesting going forward. Coming up, 3 of the Saints' first 4 opponents finished dead last in the division a year ago. But it's a new season, and there's reason to believe we'll examine a trend that could predict a new playoff team. Next.
You're watching Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best limited truck warranty.
Welcome back into Fox 8 Overtime. Tampa Bay is on their way to doing something that's more common in the NFL than you might think. From first to worst. Only one game in the season. I'm sorry, from worst to first. Let's try that again.
There you go.
See, it doesn't happen very often. We think it doesn't happen very often. In recent NFL history, teams going from last place in the division to first the following season. It's happened for at least one team per season in 14 of the last 15 years. 23 times total in 15 years. Browns, Bucks, Giants, 3 of the Saints' first 4 opponents. One of those teams could end up in first place end of the year. Which one do you think it's going to be, if any of them? Now, the Browns tied Pittsburgh, so maybe they're on their way.
That's progress.
Maybe that's a sign.
Look, I'm not sure about that. I do know this, though. What you just read is why it's one of the best things about the NFL. This doesn't happen in Major League Baseball. It certainly doesn't happen in the NBA, but it's also, and we're all guilty of this, why you can't look at a schedule and starts penciling in wins. I mean, how many teams did that with the Saints on their schedule the last 3 years after 3 straight 7-9 seasons? Every year is a new year. It's a new journey. So I think we're all a little guilty of it, but I'm not really sure which one goes from worst to first this year. I know it's happening a lot in the NFL, but it beats me.
If I had to pick one of those teams, I would pick the Giants because I have the least faith in that division. I think when you look at the NFC South, it'd be hard to go against the Panthers, Saints, or Falcons winning that division. When you look at the Browns division, and you got an uphill fight with Pittsburgh and Baltimore. But then when you look at the NFC East, I know people are high on the Eagles. I'm not necessarily there right now. I still think they're going to have some issues to work through. I'm not sold on Nick Foles. We don't know when Carson Wentz is going to be back. When Carson Wentz comes back, is his knee the same?
Right.
Does he have the same mobility? That was a huge part of his game. So I think the Giants, when you add a running back like Saquon Barkley, you get Odell back, you've got Sterling Shepard, you've got what can be a very good tight end in Evan Ingram and some players on defense. I think the Giants have as good of a chance in that division because it seems like the NFC East is sometimes, up for grabs.
I'm not going to say they're going to win the division, but I will say this. The Cleveland Browns are a team that are going to win a few more games this year than they did last year. Am I going on a limb?
I think it's safe to say.
That's hard.
3.
With Tyrod Taylor, with Jarvis Landry. Get this. Y'all ready for this? The Browns are off to their best start since 2004. They start the season 0-0-1. They haven't won an opener since 2004.
The Saints might be on that trend too.
So the Browns are trending up. There's their best start in 14 years. It can't get any worse for the Browns, right?
And they like their chances against the Saints. They've won 2 of 3 against them with Sean Payton. They've won the last 2.
0-2 is how they do.
They match up well against New Orleans. They always
do have Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator, and the last time Greg Williams came in here, it was a massive smackdown.
He does bring the best out of Sean Payton.
Yes, he does. That whole division matches up well against the Saints.
Always does.
All right, LSU will go for its second upset of a top 10 opponent in 3 weeks. But is Ed Orgeron's team ranked too high? I think so. We'll see what the other guys think. That's next.
Watching Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best limited truck warranty.
All right, back here on Overtime, we're going to talk college football now. This weekend, LSU will visit Auburn. It's a 12 versus 7 national ranking matchup. Is LSU ranked too high, too low, or just right? I think they're ranked too high because I think they're getting that ranking based on their history, based on their SEC school. But I don't think LSU is the 12th best team in the country. I don't think they've proven enough on the field to tell me they're the 12th best team in the country. Obviously, Miami was very overrated at number 8, and LSU you didn't know much about LSU at the first game of the season, didn't know what their offense was going to do. I think Joe Burrow's a good quarterback, but how good is he? We don't know. We're going to find out a lot this weekend against Auburn, but ranked 12th, I don't think so.
Don't tell me you're basing this off of SLU. Don't tell me you're basing it off
I'm basing it off what I've seen from this team in the first 2 weeks of the season. I thought they did a good job against Miami, but they won that game on the backs of their defense first, and the offense followed through. Southeastern, they should have scored more points. They didn't do nearly well enough on offense against Southeastern. You've got to put a team like that away. It's got to be a 50-point scoring barrage against Southeastern.
I think they were a little bit on autopilot against Southeastern. There's no doubt about that. But look, Washington 10, Penn State 11, LSU 12, VTech 13, West Virginia 14, 15 TCU, 16 Mississippi State. They're all kind of what and what to me. I mean, I think LSU, it belongs somewhere between 12 and 15. So I'm okay with them being ranked 12 right now. And one team we know was overranked or overrated was Miami, and you saw what they did to them. So, and look, I think they're going to play much better this week at Jordan-Hare than they did this week against SLU.
I think one of the issues is even asking the question right now because we've only seen 2 games. I mean, there are only so many teams you can put ahead of LSU, and there are only so many teams that have beaten top 10 teams. So for now, LSU has beaten a top 10 team. They'll play another one. If they drop the ball, they'll be knocked down. But right now, I have no problem with LSU being ranked right there because no one else has had the chance to prove they're better yet. We haven't seen LSU even face an SEC foe yet, but against the team that they played that was in the top 10, they dominated. So at least off the strength of that.
Away from home.
Yeah, they've got to be in the top 15.
As I pointed out in last week's Overtime, the preseason poll is the hardest one for me to do. But I always say, it's going to work. Everything's going to work out. You're going to figure things out. It's only 2 weeks into the season. Right now, LSU, I think, is right where they need to be at number 12. Auburn this week, and you're going to find out everything, okay? How good is Joe Burrow? If you look at the numbers, I will say this. First week, he went 11 of 24 passing, no touchdowns. This past week, he went 10 of 20 passing. That's 50% below 50%. Yes, he had 2 touchdown passes. One was a quick into the flat to Jamar Chase. He did all the work. The other one was on a Hail Mary. So I still have a lot of questions about Joe Burrow throwing for only 50% right now. And he's got to slide. I know we've gone over this way too much. Auburn's defensive line is going to actually decapitate him if he continues to run without sliding. It's just going to happen there.
So based on your numbers, here's where I agree with you in that I got to see more from Burrow. In the Miami game, you asked him to be a game manager, not make the mistake against a good defensive Miami team. Against Southeastern, you wanted him to go out there and light up the scoreboard. I didn't see that. That's why I think this team is ranked too high right now. And I know you haven't seen enough of teams around them and the guys behind them and all that. But when you're playing a team like Southeastern or an FCS school, it is your job to go out there and dominate that team on both sides of the ball, not have any lulls at all. And you didn't see that in LSU. And that tells me right there they're not where they don't show me that they equal what their ranking is right now.
I'll say this, in Burrow's defense at least, that's not necessarily on him. That's on Coach Ogeron. That is on the offensive staff. They can say they wanted to go out there and show what they had, all they wanted, or they've put it all on the table. They're playing to win. Look, the fact is Joe Burrow threw for 3 yards in the second half. He could have thrown for more. They could have attempted a lot more. They had the ball in scoring position late and opted to run the ball into the end zone. That's on them being paranoid and not wanting to put too much on tape.
Okay. All right, taking a look around the college football schedule this weekend. Tulane will get things started on Saturday with a noon kickoff at UAB. They're favored in that game. LSU Auburn, 2:30 up at Jordan-Hare. In the Southland Conference, they start conference play. Nichols battles McNeese. Southeastern welcomes Central Arkansas to Hammond. ULL, they'll be on the road at Mississippi State, a nationally ranked team. They're 18th in the country, trying to get that upset. All right, still to come. It's final state time, but first we'll check in on week 3 of high school football as contenders are already staking their claims.
Time, sponsored by the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best limited truck warranty.
We're in the home stretch of Fox 8 Overtime. Week 3 of our Fox 8 Big 8 poll is out. The top 4, Carr, Easton, Curtis, Destrehan. But I got a problem with 5 through 8.
Oh, you always got a problem.
St. Aug, Terrebonne, Holy Cross, Lakeshore. Terrebonne drops, but they didn't lose. Explain this to me.
2 of Terrebonne's games so far, they've had good performances, but not impressive performances. St. Aug has destroyed MAC 35 in week 1 and obliterated De La Salle in week 2. Yes, De La Salle's not the same team as they were last year, but St. Aug's got a good quarterback this year, good running game. Nathaniel Jones is doing great as the coach. I really think that John Curtis, St. Aug, Jesuit, Rummel, they're all going to be fighting for the crown. St. Aug is going to be in that mix for the Catholic League title this year.
All right, hey, there's a big game down in the parish. You know the parish, right, Fazan?
Oh, yeah.
Holy Cross and Chalmette, that's going to be a fun one. It always is.
Oh, no doubt. This is finally, I think Holy Cross is back. It's safe to say, Guy LeCompte as the head coach. A lot of new blood in the Catholic League with coaching with Nathaniel Jones and Guy LeCompte. I think Holy Cross has a great shot to win this game. They're 2-0. They got a fired-up offense there, spreading the ball around. They have a good shot to go 3-0 after this week.
I always love covering that game. It's going to be fun down in the parish. There's still time to vote for your top player for week 2. Ponchatoula, quarterback, and LSU commit TJ Finley accounted for 9 touchdowns. Carr's Ronnie Jackson rumbled for nearly 250 yards and 2 scores. Jackson. Easton's Lance Lejean had 6 touchdowns to his name. Voting is on fox8live.com and ends Wednesday night. Time now for everyone's favorite, our final say, and Sean Bazan gets us started.
Thank you, sir. So the NFL wrapped up week 1, and I've learned some very important things like Patrick Mahomes deserves a statue outside of Arrowhead. Sam Darnold is already a first ballot Hall of Famer, and Dak Prescott's days as a franchise quarterback are over. Oh, and the 7 new coaches hired this year, they lost all their opening games, thus they were crappy hires and should be fired immediately. Quick reminder, Bill Belichick not only lost his season opener, but his first 4 games as head coach of the Patriots. You gotta love opening weekend, where we all know there's going to be ridiculous overreaction, and yet we do it every single year. And 2018 did not disappoint.
I've also got something to say about the NFL. The NFL quarterback is one of the most respected and highly paid positions in sports. However, some of them are benefiting from others financially raising the bar for the whole group because clearly they're not all on the same level. And like Sean said, I know it's week 1, but let me get this hot take out. For example, Drew Brees, who signed a 2-year deal worth about $50 million last year, clearly he's still at the top of his game after throwing for more than 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. But the rest of that bunch, or at least most of that bunch, getting elite money, did not back it up with the same level of elite play. Matt Stafford, awful last night against the Jets, throwing 4 interceptions, but making more than Breeze. Matt Ryan, at least he has an NFC Championship to his name, but once again against Philly to open the season, below average, but making more than $30 million a year. And then Derek Carr, who threw one of the most boneheaded interceptions we've seen this week. He's a $26 million quarterback. I don't knock them for getting their cash, do you, but don't let the dollar signs distract you from the best 3 in the game right now, Brady, Breeze, and Rodgers.
Go a little minor league baseball now. It appears the days of the New Orleans baby cakes are coming to an end with a move to Wichita in the near future. Now, I'm not saying the name change is the reason fans quit coming, but it sure didn't help. The people of NOLA love to keep it local, and that mascot was a made-up name, and it never worked. Sure, you sold some hats. Fantastic. But combining people of our city saying baby
They're nice hats.
with king cake was never authentic. Local ownership would have never let this happen. But locals don't own the team right now. Hopefully in the future, it is local owners that get rid of the cake's name forever.
I'm
Goodbye.
not saying, but I'm just saying. My final say comes from Chris Hagan's area of expertise, the world of tennis. Last Saturday, the world got to witness what some are calling one of the biggest temper tantrums the sport of tennis has ever seen. And it came from arguably the best player on the women's game has ever had,
The GOAT.
and Serena Williams. In her U.S. Open Championship match against eventual winner Naomi Osaka, Williams and the chair umpire didn't see eye to eye on a number of calls, and Williams was penalized multiple times, which didn't sit well. I can see it from both sides. The chair umpire didn't want to, nor did he deserve, to get shown up, even if it was by the world's best player. And Williams had a point to make about fairness and equality on the tennis court. John McEnroe, Jimmy Connors, even Roger Federer. History reminds us that the guys have gotten away with a heck of a lot more on the court than the ladies have and do. So she's right and he's right. Here's hoping the next time something like this happens, clearer and cooler heads will prevail. And a reminder that Overtime is only a part of our football on Fox 8 schedule. Throughout the season, we've got a full preview of the Browns on Wednesday night's game plan. Friday is time for high school football with Fox 8 Football Friday with Chris, Sean, and Garland. Sunday is the game day routine. Fox 8 Live tailgate at 10 a.m. Kickoff at noon. Wrap the day up with the final play at 10:30. Monday night is the review time with Deuce McAllister. And then, of course, we do it all over again because that's what we love to do here at Fox 8. Until then, for the gentleman beside me, Garland, Sean, well, you're not Sean. Chris.
I'm not Sean. I know we all look alike.
No, shades of gray, baby.
I'm not.
Shades of gray.
I'm not Sean. Now I'm all over
Garland,
the place.
Sean, and Chris. I'm Juan Kincaid. We appreciate you being with us. Our next newscast is at 4:30 in the morning. Have a great night.
This has been Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best